Hello and welcome to A Fountain of Useless Information, a micro podcast hosted by Ann O'Connor. Each 15-minute episode will feature a person, much like yourself, who knows something unusual, interesting, and maybe even zany that is near and dear to their heart. Today, we have Phil DeCesare here with us to talk about fitness. I've known Phil for about 25 years. We first met at John Eastman's gym in Leominster. Yeah, we were both younger and prettier at that point.
And we had funny shoes, Ann, if you recall. We had those wonderful Vibram 5 fingers.
Yeah, we sure did, and you're still wearing them.
I still wear them.
They're pretty cool things.
Yeah.
So, you have really made fitness a giant part of your life.
Yeah.
How did you start with it?
Good question. As a kid, loving superheroes, certainly Superman, and then Lou Ferrigno came on our TV screen as the Incredible Hulk, and inspired much awe in a very young kid. And in fact, I wrote a letter to Lou Ferrigno back when I was about 8 years old, and he sent me a letter or a signed picture in return. So I just thought it was the first letter that I recall ever writing, and to get a response and a picture signed was just out of this world. So that kind of started me on the track. But no, I was a skinny lad, as many were back in the day, and wanted to, I think, and I guess self-conscious about being very skinny, like a toothpick kind of deal, I used to wear those athletic wristbands on my forearms and even up the arms. Those athletic ones like baseball players wear, those sweatbands for wiping and that sort of thing. And hated to wear short sleeves, Dreaded the summer because that would mean I'd have to wear short sleeves and shorts and everything else. So I thought, there must be an easier way. And my uncle gave us a weight set one year, and I think it was his. He was getting new equipment. It wasn't a holiday or anything else, but started to tinker around with that weight set. Ultimately outgrew the equipment and the weights, and had a paper route, as a lot of industrious young boys and girls at the time had, delivering papers, making my own money and that sort of thing. And I was leafing through the JCPenney catalog and found this wonderful set made by Huffy. It was a bench with a leg extension, leg curl unit. It had the cable for the lat pull downs. It had a chin-up bar. It was basically a gym set all in one. So I figured I had the barbells and some of the dumbbells and some of the other weights, and I made my first gym with my paper route money, and the sum total of that gym set in the very early 1980s was $249, and by today's money it's a bit more, but I paid for it all myself. So had the set at home. We also, in Clinton at the time, had one of the very few health clubs around. We had a Nautilus Club, which was situated right up by the Clinton Dam, the reservoir, and for a nominal monthly fee, supplemented by my paper route money, I decided to join. A few friends of mine joined too, and we started working out at a very, very young age. And I think we spent half the time in the sauna and the whirlpool, but we did hit the weights too. And so, it's interesting. Some of the people I remember from back then who were, college students or just out of school, while I was a middle schooler at that, bumped into again at Eastman's Fitness. Again, it's so funny how these circles do intertwine, and you come full circle with some of these people, and you meet them again along the path. But that really got me seriously into it at that point.
Yeah. So you are still busy doing things other than we'll say just weightlifting. You also run.
I do, yes. And I just mentioned the Clinton Dam earlier, and I try to get down there a couple of times a week to supplement running with running the stairs down there. And those stairs are numerous. They're steep. They're very cement. They're very solid. And they can really, really try one's endurance and strength. So I try to do several runs several days a week, and that helps me with my running, of course. When it comes to running on flat surface, after running those, it's quite easy in comparison.
It's like nothing.
It's night and day.
Night and day. So you also train people.
I do.
How did you come to do that?
Been doing that for a long time. I think I'm a people person, definitely, and I know the power of exercise, the transformative power, and how it can change a person. The entire trajectory of a person can change once they embark on an exercise program. And when we talk about mind, body, and soul, it's bringing balance to everything. And I've seen some great transformations with people, throughout the course of 20 years and change, and it's been remarkable. It really has been.
Do you have any words of advice for someone who may be new to fitness? Someone will say, "Oh, I can't lift weights. That's just for..."
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. Very often we hear from people who say, I'm going to join once I lose 10 pounds, because there's that self-conscious part of people, and they think they have to look a certain way to before they embark on their journey. But it's actually better to come as you are, and it's gradual. There really is nothing to fear. Believe it or not, a lot of people are immersed in their own thing in these larger health clubs, and they're not really even paying attention to people. So, if you're going into it thinking the spotlight's going to be on you and everyone's going to be looking at you and judging you, well, that's really not the case. It's, in fact, people are pretty much into their own game.
Yeah. I see that at some gyms. Some gyms I've been to, I feel like maybe I should put my makeup on first, which is difficult because I don't have any.
There you go. Don't start it. You don't want to sweat and wear makeup.
No,
it's just not good.
You just don't want to. And it's funny because you and I met back up after I started in at Fitchburg Strength and Fitness.
Yeah.
And it came up on my Facebook that it was 3 years ago today that I started back.
Sounds like a Sgt.
At the
Pepper's
gym.
song. Wow, yeah, it has it really.
Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary.
Well, thank you.
These things need to be commemorated.
They do. They didn't have any cake for me there today.
Well, that's actually a good thing, I think, for most of us anyway.
Well, that means I have to buy my own.
Well, that's okay.
And I do.
Too.
Yeah.
There's room for cake.
So you share your knowledge.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, you're on WPKZ.
I'm on WPKZ 2 days a week right now, 2 mornings, doing the morning show, co-host with Noah, and that actually spawned from a fitness feature that, strangely and alliteratively enough, started as the Friday Fitness Feature with Phil, which is a 30-minute segment where we still discuss a whole bunch of topics. That is also available on the SoundCloud on WPKZ.net, I believe, if you're looking to check out some previous episodes and different topics. So it's fun, and that expanded now into doing other interviews and meeting other guests. Today, Noah and I spoke to Congressman Jim McGovern. Totally cool. My first time speaking to him or to someone of that, political persuasion, that upper level kind of thing. Because we do have mayors in, and that's wonderful too. So we really have a good sense of community there. It's a great place.
Yeah, that radio station under different names has been a huge part of the Fitchburg community for a long, long time.
Over 80 years.
Well over 80 years,
which is crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Staying power, for
absolutely. Sure. So one last thing to talk about.
Sure.
We all go through weighing more and weighing less.
Don't
and when I first met you, we're not going to talk about my weight, but when I first met you, you weighed like 50 pounds more, and I thought that was solid muscle. But you've made some changes in your life.
It's so funny. Depending upon when people have seen me last, they comment one way or the other. You're bigger, you're smaller, or what have you. My weight range has definitely fluctuated in the neighborhood of, I've got to do some math here, but 80 pounds, give or take. Yeah. And
That's
some of it
huge.
it is huge. And at one point I was huge, I would suggest, more of the powerlifting variety. A lot of muscle mass, mind you, but a good deal of what we maybe call superfluous flesh, too.
Yes, but you have some height to you.
That's a good thing. And I have the frame to help accommodate that sort of that mass. And ultimately, it brings up a good point, Ann. Fitness really is, I think, determined in part by how much muscle you have under there. Okay, it's something to cultivate as we mature, because age and lack of activity will ultimately do us in create what they call sarcopenia, which is a muscle loss. And if we stick to a program, and it doesn't have to be anything extreme, but a few days of resistance training, we can hold on to that lean muscle, which has positive metabolic effects. Which has impact on blood sugar and it really is a great way to stave off a lot of chronic diseases. So beyond the aesthetics of having muscle and the functionality of having, extra strength and that sort of thing, muscle is really an important thing to have. And if you're carrying a little extra weight, okay, that's one thing. But if you have that solid base of muscle, you can always shed that little bit of extra weight.
Right. And I think one thing that's important to bring up is that just because you lift weights, you're not going to bulk up unless you're really trying to bulk up.
No, you're absolutely right. And, and it's true, and that runs along gender lines too. Women definitely have a more challenging time putting on muscle, but they can still do it. And we know some folks, particularly even at Fitchburg Strength and Fitness, who are quite muscular and impressive in their own right. But it does take a dedicated approach. And again, as you age, protein muscle synthesis becomes more challenging, and you actually have to take in more protein to build that muscle. So never let building muscle be a fear. And you talk to any experienced weightlifter, bodybuilder, or anyone in exercise for a while, they almost laugh and scoff at that notion. You're like, oh, I wish we had that problem, So no worries there.
No, don't worry about that. Well, Phil, thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure.
I really
what
appreciate
a great
it.
studio, and what a great time, man. This is awesome. And I won't be a stranger, so don't you be a stranger either. We'll have another interview sometime.
Fair enough.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye, Ann.
Bye. A Fountain of Useless Information is hosted, produced, and edited by Ann O'Connor. Do you have an idea for the podcast? You can reach Ann through her website, annoc.com, ANNEOC.com, on Facebook at Our History AOC, or by calling or texting 978-958-0054. All music on the podcast is in the public domain or is written and performed by the host and guests of the podcast. A Fountain of Useless Information was recorded at the Fitchburg Access Television Studios in Fitchburg. They are on the web at fatv.org.